The next wine we are going to look at is your Grenache. Now, I think we're all fairly big Grenache fans here. I would think we're all probably very excited about where Australian Grenache is and where it's going. I think. I mean, Ben, what's your take on making good Grenache and the style of Grenache that you're trying to show us here?
Well, Grenache is can be tricky, but it's also can be easy to make in a way. It's one of those varieties that you need to set the vineyard up well to start with, so that you can get the fruit ripe at a lowish Beaumet. When I say lowish for Grenache, you're probably looking into Barossa around 13 and a half to 14 Beaumet really is where you're gonna need to get it to get the ripeness and get rid of the green characters. But it's one of those varieties that if the canopies are too big and there's too much fruit on there, you're gonna be pushing out into 15, 16 Beaumet and you're gonna get a really porty Grenache. So getting the vineyard right, and then we like to play around a bit and do a lot of different ferments from the same blocks and do some whole bunch, some extended maceration. So one of the components that's gone into that Grenache has been on skins for about 70 days and as whole berry, so we didn't even crush them. Really split it up into lots of different parcels. So I like to call this the whole kitchen sink. We really threw everything at this one to try to make a wine that not only had those really bright sort of Turkish delight and raspberry flavours that are really enticing and super fashionable at the moment, people are loving, but it also has a serious side to it. That extended maceration's given it a nice tannin structure and drive on the palate, which I think will set this wine up to be one that will age quite well over the next decade or so.
Now, I really like you've got the sweetness, which is what you need to have, I think, with Grenache. But then you're right. I think that, that long maceration's just given a nice savoury edge to it. So when you're looking for more, it delivers, I think. And it's, very, it's rich like a good Grenache should be, but it's also got some delicacy in there as well. Jeni, your take on it?
I loved it. But then I'm loving that whole new wave of Grenache that's coming through. And I think what I'm really picking up is the fragrance and those aromatics. We haven't really seen them promoted before in Grenache. And I think they're just stunning. And in particular in this one, I picked up something I've called a dried raspberry. I found it quite a distinctive feature in this wine, along with that potpourri kind of sweet floral thing happening, but lots of plummy flavour too and spice. That light pepperiness, just a little theme kind of running through it. And again, Grenache can be so kind of chunky. And I thought those grainy tannins not only brought it nice and tight and to a lovely structure, but freshness. There was so much freshness to this wine. So it's all just there waiting for you to devour it, but with potential for a bit more aging as well. But loved it. And there's absolute gorgeous aromatics that just won me over.
Yeah, it's very user-friendly, and it immediately is just approachable and delicious, I think. Tony?
Yeah, everything that she said. And much to love about this wine, and the aromatics, of course, are the Grenache thing that that is very attractive, and I just love this this sort of layering of sweet fruit flavors, as we've all described them, as well as the sort of all the savoury elements like the herbal stuff and everything as well. And my notes basically say, look, it's got all that sort of herb garden, stones, crushed rocks, all those things that the French call garrigue. And I know that that's here. It's in this wine, and that's the lovable thing about Grenache for me, is I love seeing that. And every house has its own way of producing that, and that is the distinctive thing about Grenache, is that it can show you so many different variations on that theme that this was just a lovable thing for me to see this wine, to be able to do that. The thing which is also interesting for me in this wine, and Grenache can do this, is it can have that sort of saltpeter, charcuterie kind of element to it as well. And I saw that here in this wine as well. And again, that's just another layer that you see in Grenache that provides that extra interest. It's just a much more open and transparent wine in a way than other bigger sort of traditional red varieties, and that's why I think people are liking it. It's very drinkable, but it's also, you can actually contemplate this wine and spend a bit of time with it and see different elements come out. And I just think that's so much to see. But it's we're so used to aromatics being at the front of the wine, and I just noted that aromatics stayed all the way through this wine, right through to the finish. They're part of the flavour profile, but they just swirled all the way through, and I just love it. I'm a big fan of it.
Shanteh, I bet you can see this on the table.
100%. And I love Grenache, and we all do, I suppose, at the moment. But the Grenache in this country at the moment is probably, I think, one of the stars of late. Maybe in the last couple of years, maybe I'm just joining it a bit late. But I'm glad that Tony mentioned charcuterie, because along with the alluring elements of all that beautiful fruit, red, black, maybe hints of violets, I saw a lot of spices, in particular kind of savory spices like paprika and kind of cumin right towards the end, which it really took me to somewhere like Marrakesh or those kind of market elements, which then led me down a path of what you want to serve it with. And I think you have so much acidity here to cut through richer elements as well, but it just opens it up for thinking about what could you be eating with it. And I'd probably say with this particular Grenache, I actually didn't have a Pinot glass on hand at the time, and I used a Chardonnay glass. I had it in a few different glasses, where I definitely say give it a little bit more air and pop it in a glass that's really going to open it up, and you get a lot of different elements coming through with that.
I think one thing that really impresses me with this wine is I think there aren't that many bigger brands doing Grenache particularly well. I think people have worked out how to do Chardonnay, and they've worked out how to do Shiraz and Cabernet. I think this is a really, really great sign for what Orlando's doing, in that this wine really has been really well made. It's been sensitively made. It's got character, and someone's tried really hard to make a good wine out of it and push the boat out a bit. And I don't see that in many, of the bigger brands when it comes to Grenache. I see a lot of, quite simple fleshy wines, whereas I think this is clearly quite different from that. Nice work, Ben.